The month was October, and I was working as a cashier for Target. It was not so much of a busy night. We only had a few coworkers working, but after a few hours went by, a group of men came into the store wearing purge masks. It was close to Halloween, so I did not think nothing of it. The men walked in and went to the costume aisle. I then got bored and nobody was really shopping, so I went around and walked around the store just to look for a costume I might want to buy for Halloween. I then saw the group of men in the purge masks just staring at me, not saying a word. I ignored these group of men and began to look through the costumes, which we were selling. The men then said, "The devil is alive." I looked at the dude and was kind of weirded out, but still kept looking through the costumes. The man with the mask then said, "He's coming for you all." I then said, "Knock it off, man." The man looked at me as his group just stared at me as well. I got an idea of what I was going to wear and went back to the counter to take someone's order. Nobody was at the register. I just waited patiently until I heard a scream. It was coming from the back of the store. It did not sound like a playful scream. I started to dial 911 to explain to the cops that someone might be in danger, and I would need them to get there immediately. After explaining to the cops, they sent one cop out, which he did nothing. I mean, he looked around the store, but that was about it. He did not ask a question about the situation or even do his job as a police officer. The cops then left, and the group of men came in. They came out the bathroom, which I guess that's where they were hiding in. They were all holding a baseball bat. I then said, "Are you going to buy these?" They looked at me and put the bat on the table so I could scan them and they could pay and get out of there. After the man paid for the bats, the men then left Target. I waited a couple more minutes before we could close up the night and started to clean up. The other coworkers then started to make their way up to the front to help me clean up. As I seen one coworker who looked pretty beaten. He was bleeding with a busted lip. I told the coworkers to call 911 and report the busted lip situation. The coworkers then called the cops and we waited patiently until they arrived. The cops then explained to us that someone's car outside was destroyed. I began to run outside just to see if it was my car or somebody else. The window was busted, which it was my coworker's car, whose windows were busted and shattered everywhere. I then looked at my car just to see if anything was done to it. I did not see nothing but a note. I picked up the note and started to read it. "You're next." I then showed the police, and the police then asked if we had security cameras. I then took the police up to the room with security cameras to see if the police could identify any of these men. After that night, I was home in my living room watching TV. Out of curiosity, I turned on the news and saw that the group of men who were wearing the purge mask was caught and arrested for breaking in. The other types of charges they had were put onto them too. Still to this day, I wonder if I would have not let these men in, nobody would have got hurt. The year was October. Me and my girlfriend Kaylee was planning our vacation in a small cabin in the country. I was driving to our destination in the cabin, which was just a little getaway vacation to relax, kick back a little before we had to both go back to work again. Kaylee then booked the cabin I was driving to and asked the owner if we could stop by tonight because we were already on our way. The owner then said yes, that would be fine and the keys would be under the mat outside the cabin. We then arrived to the cabin. It was nighttime by the time we got there and it had started to rain, as me and Kaylee would bring our stuff into the cabin and get situated. After the rain stopped, me and Kaylee, my girlfriend, began to go outside to the patio, which had a hot tub. I wanted to get in the hot tub and look at the stars or whatnot. After being in the hot tub, I started to hear something coming from the woods, which was beside us. We both ignored this because it was in the middle of nowhere, so it could have been an animal. The next morning, I went on a walk around the cabin just to get some fresh air. On my way back from the cabin, I could see we had a shack outside the cabin. I began to look at it, but the door was locked and there was no way we can get in. I then contacted the owner asking if the shack was supposed to be locked outside. It wasn't my business, I was just curious. But I began to get creeped out as the owner then said no. I don't know who locked it. I then told my girlfriend Kaylee to go in the house. Then I looked into the door window and saw a man who was doing something. I could not get a better look at the man to picture out what he was exactly doing. But the man had a creepy, terrifying face. That smile looked at me when I looked at him. And then he started to come closer to the door holding that knife, which I then told my girlfriend Kaylee to get in the car. As my girlfriend was confused, she then got in the car and as I began to get in the car, I then saw what the creepy man was doing. He had a woman he was holding hostage. He was cutting at her one by one. I then got into my car and called the police. Shortly after the police arrived, the man was arrested, who was the owner of the cabin. That was his wife. He was cutting at making her suffer pain for not wanting to join in on the killing, which he wanted to kill the new people who would stay in the cabin. After the man was arrested and the woman was sent to the hospital, I still get nightmares of this man making that weird, creepy, smiling face he did when I saw him. In late October, the haunted house began to open back up. Me and my friends and I started to go look for an outfit to wear to the haunted house. My friend Cassie then said, "Let's wear a dress." I said, "No, I do not want to wear a dress." I said, "Let's just do regular clothes because it was a haunted house after all." After arriving at the haunted house, the front people then said we'd have to sign this paper, which states, "I agree to everything that happens in the haunted house." I was with my girls and we did not really think about what we was signing, so we all put our signature down. After that, the lady then said, "Put our phone in this box, because if we didn't, that would ruin the fun." We then put our phones into the box and waited in line, waiting our turn to go in the haunted house. After we got in the haunted house, we then started walking through a dark maze until our director, who was our direct person to help us not get lost, took us outside to a cornfield, which was part of the haunted house, I thought. And we were lost and locked outside. I then started to hear a chainsaw, sounds from the cornfields. We all began to run, not splitting up because we all watched scary movies and knew what happens when you all split up. Me and my girls ran into the dark forest that was nearby because it was either a cornfield or forest. We had no choice after running for a bit, then hit a road that was in the middle of nowhere. We had no phones or anything. We were confused if this was part of the haunted house or not. We then saw a truck pull up, and we asked if we could get in and told them the situation we were in. They started lying to us saying we was okay. We all got in, but then 6 men put a bag over our heads because they took us to a creepy abandoned house, asking where our money was. We said we don't have anything and asked if we could leave. The men with the creepy clown mask would not let us leave and said, "Fine, have it the hard way." We saw a giant clown costume guy come in with a chainsaw, still with the chain on it, approach us. I began to hear cop sirens. The men then left, and I began to hear gunshots, which the cops came in and rescued us. We later on found on the news the haunted house was real people who were killing people, and if they caught you after getting all your stuff back, you would be killed. Me and my friends and I thought to ourselves, we are lucky the cops came because who knows what those men would have done to us if the cops hadn't shown up when they did. It was October and it was a cold and rainy night when I got a text from my girlfriend Kaylee, who was stuck on the side of a highway, and asked if I could come pick her up. I replied with, "Yeah, what highway are you on?" I waited a couple minutes to get a reply, "East Calm Avenue." I got into my Chevy truck and began to drive to my girlfriend Kaylee, which I would try to call, but she would not answer. It's kind of worried me a little bit because this was not like Kaylee. She would always answer my calls. I then stopped at a nearby gas station to grab an energy drink for the ride to pick up my girlfriend Kaylee, which was almost 30 minutes away from where I lived. I kept driving through the dark and foggy roads that no cars were really on due to the storm and rainy night it was. I then was only 5 minutes away from my girlfriend. I tried to call her again. No one picked up, not even a text message. I started to think this might not be safe, so I called Kaylee's mom and asked if Kaylee was around. Kaylee's mom then said, "Yeah, she was just up in her room doing homework." I then told Kaylee's mom what was happening and that I'm about to call the police. To call the police and letting them know what the details were. I then got a text from Kaylee's phone asking, "Are you almost here? It's cold out." I ignored the text and waited for the police to get there. Soon after police arrived, 5 minutes away from me, 3 men were arrested. These men were all hiding inside a ditch with knives, waiting for me to get there, acting like they were Kaylee, because she had lost her phone, which then the cops gave Kaylee her phone back, because she lost it when her old phone, which had the same number, and these guys must have been using it. I was terrified and didn't know what to do, and what they would have done to me if I would have gone and picked up Kaylee that night. At least, I would have thought it was Kaylee. I probably wouldn't be here to tell you the story.